let's just say I'm a uniform security guard company and all I do is retail, right? And then COVID comes and retail stores are closed because you're not allowed to be open, right? If that's my only source of revenue, now I'm
what you're saying is great. That's so refreshing. Is I try to make it so that no particular client is worth more than 20% of revenue.
You might be $100 million company, but what happens if it's only one client and that client goes away? Then there's all types of customers in all scenarios, and I don't care what business you're in or product. There's ones that care about value, and there's ones that don't and only care about the cheapest possible service they can get, whether that's a budget decision or whether they don't care about value or they do and they can't afford it. It is what it is, right? So I turn down business semi-regularly on inquiries that come to you because
Hi, this is Rudo Robinson, and welcome to the Your Security Business Podcast. This is your place for security business owners to gain information to help them run effective, efficient security businesses with less stress. And today I have the pleasure of having on my guest, Mr. Evan Levitt from Alexios Security Solutions. Alexios Security Solutions currently services the greater Phoenix and Vegas area. And in fact, Evan's been in this business for over 15 years. So it's my pleasure to introduce you to Mr. Evan. Evan, say hello to everybody.
Hey, everybody. Glad you're attending this fantastic podcast.
Security-wise, right? Because I know you use this for your business. But security-wise, tell me about, take me back to when you started in the security industry yourself. What was that journey like?
It wasn't I didn't decide the path. It kind of just decided for me. The short story, it all started with a motorcycle accident. I was out with three of my buddies. We did our every Sunday morning ride, in the New York metro area. Early morning, one of the guys, our buddies, crashed. It was a severe accident. He survived, but it was a severe accident. The three of us were just looking at him down on the ground. We had no formal training of any kind to provide first aid. And I remember that feeling of helplessness, not just for any human that's on the ground, but for someone that I know very well. And he's got a wife and young children and all this other stuff, so that all flashes in front of your mind when you're looking at your buddy on the ground. And I remember just feeling so helpless. And I told myself, I will never, ever be in that position ever again to be the type of a person that wants to help others and not have the ability to do so right in front of me. So the next day I signed up for the EMT program in New York City, John Jay Criminal Justice College. And 5 months later, I was an EMT. I started volunteering on the weekends. I fell in love with it. That was kind of I was around 40 or so. That was kind of my first midlife crisis at the time. This is kind of, for me, I think I align with more of a blue-collar member of service kind of career than the white-collar grinding it out sales kind of thing. And that was really my transition, while I was figuring out what to do with that life and career transition in New York. I had a brother that was out in Vegas that owned a retail business out here, and I would come and visit, and that's kind of the Las Vegas seed was planted. My goal was to come out here and join the fire department, even at 40-ish, and maybe put in 20 years, and retire with a pension. But I moved here in 2007, and the economy was in a depression at that time, and there was a hold on those type of academies. So I wasn't able to pursue fire or police traditionally, and I ended up getting a job as an EMT security officer for the Venetian, which I thought was fantastic. You're in Vegas, you got to work in a casino. It's the only gig in town. Find employment. And then B, I figured if I could eventually get onto the fire department, then at least I'm working in the field, doing my skills in the field as a medic, and I'll be a better looking candidate for county someday. And that's kind of where it started. And one thing happened, or many things happened. Many other did or presented themselves, and the rest is history, kind of as you say. But it was really, someday I'll write a book. And the preface or the prologue of the book will hopefully be written by my buddy Dan, because that single moment in life in 2005 changed the entire course of my life. Prior to that, there's a recovery and addiction story which also changed my life, but that single moment, in time, changed everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to Dan? What's his story now?
So we were blessed that a emergency room trauma nurse rolled up behind us and took over the scene. The short story is he will never ride a motorcycle again by choice as a young family man at the time, but he survived. He was in the hospital for 6 months, had close to 50 different surgeries, and was in physical therapy for quite a few years. Is an avid mountain biker, bicyclist, and naturist, and has got a beautiful family. And we touch base, every couple of years or so. We reach out to him, and I reach out to him, and I tell him the story. I go, you remember that story? You follow me on LinkedIn. You kind of know a little bit about what I do with my life now and for business. I go, without Dan Feldman, I can name him now. There is no Evan, Alexios, Vegas.
Wow.
Yeah, just a profound moment in life for everybody that was there in that scene has gone on to some sort of a round life where they were very affected by that moment and went on to do things for others,
Before we continue, let's take a moment to talk about our sponsor, Nearshore Direct Staffing. They provide remote dispatch personnel specifically trained for security companies. What sets them apart is that their staff works exclusively for you, no sharing with other firms. You can get a single agent or a whole team, all fluent in English and attuned to American culture, saving you 30-40% on employment costs. Plus, with similar time zones in Colombia, scheduling is a breeze. Check them out at nearshoredirect.com. Now, let's get back to the interview.
So now you mentioned addiction being part of your journey. Tell us about that.
So I don't have the
whatever you feel comfortable sharing, of course.
Yeah, of course. I think it's important. There's a lot of people that I think struggle silently out there, whether it's with addiction. And addiction isn't the problem. The thought process and your character defects or your self-assessed character defects are the problem. Addiction is just our way to escape, the problem. But, we have a serious problem in this country with our military vets, right, that are suffering silently and need support, and people that suffer or use substances to deal with it, a lot of times suffer silently. There's many great programs that we know that are out there for addiction and for other things. For me, I think it just kind of stems a little bit from my early childhood upbringing. I was raised in kind of a divorce environment, so there was a lot of arguing and fighting, and I was the youngest of 3 boys, right? So I was protected and isolated to some degree by my older brothers, but they grew up and went to college, and then I was left with a mom. I'm a young teenage boy going through puberty. That's rebellious in general. I have, other issues that I'm just trying to work through as a young adult or a teen, whatever you want to call it, right? It's bad enough that you got education pressures, social pressures coming from a little bit of a broken home. I'm not talking about a financially broken home. I grew up in Long Island, and I had a good roof and clothes and all that stuff. But I think it was the escapism of the upbringing in the family dynamic, and my escape. Once my brothers were out and about, my escape, I was left alone, with a single mom who had her own challenges and pressures, and with a young teenage son. That's not a good blend in any circumstance, right? So that's kind of where it started for me. I needed an escape route. Alcohol and drugs was my escape route. I used it as a crutch like everybody else for many, many years. I was very functional. I was always the employee that showed up every day, never blew off work, never got fired from a job, always performed well, always took on positions of response. I was very functional. I was able to get promotions and all that other stuff, and just whatever happened after 5 o'clock was a different Evan, but I was functional and committed for whatever it's worth to my employers, to my community, trying, and everything that I was doing, by the way, I just thought was normal. I thought everybody kind of does the same thing when they go home at night.
Everybody likes to party, right?
Yeah. Dealing with the same stresses in life, and this is what you do to get through it. So I was in a very normalized state of mind for a long time, and I was very functional for a long time. And then literally at the end, right, when I finally got to my bottom, it literally was like a country western song. My girl left me, my dog died, I crashed my truck. I swear, it would literally was like it all happened at the same time. And even then, all the signs were there. I was residentially challenged. I was, couch hopping, and then I was more than residentially challenged. I was living out of that banged up truck for a little while. So that's a part of my story too. But it was family. It wasn't me that found the light. It was family.
Wow. So are you that is so at that time? What were you doing professionally, career-wise? At that time when you hit bottom and you're in your truck,
yep.
What were you doing professionally at that time?
So when I got to the point where I was living out of my truck, at that point for a few months, I was just in between jobs. That was the country music song. Lost a job.
Lots of jobs. That's right.
Got kicked out, right? Dog died, all that stuff, the whole 9 yards. So I was just out there floating for a couple of months, trying to figure it out, and then family stepped in. The blessing was that an older brother, my oldest brother, was already 5 years sober, been there, done that, and knew the signs were coming. Evan's, not going to be around for much longer if we don't get involved. And my dad knocked on my apartment door one day and walked in and said, we think you got a problem. I said, yep, I do. And he said, okay, let's go get some help. And that was it. That was it. That was February 17th, 1998, last time I ever picked up and went to my first meeting that night.
Wow. Good for you. Good for you. I applaud your courage. A chemical addiction is not part of my journey. But I've got, people that are close to me that have experienced that. And so I've seen it and I get it. Plus, it's just certain things you see. And I just appreciate you being willing to even share that aspect of yourself. And that's just it's such a refreshing to see your growth and evolution. And I hope if at anything, people can see that and know that things can get better. What if you had to pick like an experience that you had, be it positive or negative, business wise, either a decision that you made or something that you went through business wise,
perfect example
that you would share, what would that be?
Perfect example. So I'm an executive protection agent. I was an EP agent for a very prominent family, a very high net worth family. I was on a full-time team for 3 years. And I was with the company for 10 years prior to those 3 being with the chairman and his family. So there's 2 things that protective agents are tasked with whomever they're taking care of. I am to protect you physically, and I am to protect your reputation. There is nothing else. That is it. Protect you physically from harm, protect your reputation from harm. I was in a situation where, how do I even describe it? I was faced with in the middle of the night, 30-second decision regarding my principal's reputation of something that was going to be put out on the internet unless I gave the person who had leverage on me at that moment a piece of information that they needed. It was a piece of information that they had 48 hours earlier as an employee of the same company on the same team. Okay. But it was a scenario where they pinged me in the middle of the night. I just happened to be it didn't matter whether I was with the family or not. They just said, they texted me a photograph and said, this photograph is going up on the internet in 30 seconds unless you give me this piece of information that they had a couple of days ago, right? As an employee, now they were a term employee. I gave them the piece of information that they need because I had to make a split-second decision what this photo was, and if it goes on the internet, what it's going to do to destroy this person's reputation and the family and teenagers that are in high school and all that other stuff. So I broke policy, right? And I gave a piece of information to a terminated employee who had the same information 2 days earlier, right? And I made that call based on protecting my principal, right? What the person threatened didn't happen, thank God, right? Something different kind of happened, and it caused a stink, but proactively I went to the boss at the right time and said, this is what happened in the middle of the night. I had to make a decision at that time. There was no chance for me to call the chain of command or anything like that, and this is what we're dealing with right now, and this is why I did it, and they said, well, you gave information to a termed employee, and now you're a termed employee, and that's what happened. So a 10-year career was gone because I made a choice of what I felt was to do the right thing to protect my protectee at the time. And that was 1 month, 3 weeks after my honeymoon. So
wow.
Of meeting my wife, right? My whole world, dating and all that, she had a whole image of who I was from Match.com forward. Right? Professional, he does this, he's been with this company 10 years, he's financially stable, he has a home, life is good, I'm marrying one of the good guys, the only good guy in Vegas, right? Vegas is a crazy town. And then poof, right after our honeymoon, done,
Wow. Wow. So what would you say that we should learn from that situation, though?
Never compromise your morals. If you truly believe in what you're doing is the right thing to do, then do it. Results be damned. Do it. As long as it's not illegal, immoral, or unsafe, follow your heart, follow your instinct, follow your training, and do what you believe is best in that moment. That's all you can do.
Can you give me an example or share with us an example of how you've applied that particular concept in making a business decision for your business that you own? The idea of not compromising ethics and things like that.
Another example, and I do it on a regular basis, and some people might think it's counterproductive to business, okay? In the security world, more so on the security guard side, it's much more of a commodity sale, meaning the customer who's seeking security services, there's two types of customers in all scenarios, and I don't care what business you're in or product. There's ones that care about value, and there's ones that don't and only care about the cheapest possible service they can get, whether that's a budget decision or whether they don't care about value or they do and they can't afford it. It is what it is, right? So I turn down business semi-regularly on inquiries that come to me because I either feel that the customer doesn't care about value, they don't care about what my company does as far as onboarding new employees, training, mentoring, field supervision, customer service, checks and balances of the business. There's certain things that we do for our company that we believe is more, better, different, better than everybody else that's in the same sandbox as us. So if you're not willing to listen to the value that we provide and that we prove with our performance in the field and all the references and all that stuff, then I really don't want you as a customer because you're going to be a headache customer. It's not about the bottom line for me. It's not about the money and the income will come with volume, right? But you don't want a portfolio of problem customers because that's just going to be an inefficient system and you're just going to you're going to be winning and losing customers all the time, and it's going to be a business like this instead of a business like that. So I do the best I can. We're presenting our value. I tell them we might not be the cheapest on the block, but rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat. This is why we charge what we charge, and the proof is in the pudding. So in a nice world, in a perfect world, I want to partner with customers that understand there's a value, that understand that it should be a fair negotiation, that we have a business, we have a margin that we need to maintain, we have operating expenses, we have team members that we want to take care of, and that they have a budget and their own operating expenses, and it's a matter of coming together. That's how business works, coming together, to try to come up with a solution, a service that fits and a solution that fits your budget. And it should be, again, my favorite thing, it should be a we process, not are you a dollar less than the next guy? Okay. I don't accept those, even if they say I want to go with you. Sorry. We don't have to.
That, and I get that, but let's say I'm, someone who doesn't have that many contracts. How can they maintain that discipline and get over that fear of, oh my God, I need this contract. Let me go ahead and eat whatever crap sandwich their chef just trying to give to me.
One avenue is you may have to be a little bit more diversified. Okay, so even as a security guard company, think about different types of vertical markets that you may be able to explore. So let's just say maybe you're really good at retail and you're in retail. Well, maybe, are you in high-end retail or are you on big box retail? There's different sectors. So if you're in one sector or you have a niche, try to expand in a niche. If you're an unarmed security provider, maybe you start thinking about becoming an armed agency and looking into armed contracts or state contracts, government contracts, houses of worship need a lot of support. So I think it's really just trying to think outside the box to generate multiple revenue streams that make sense within the same business that you're doing. We learned that in COVID, okay? I mean, not all our eggs are passive, but let's just say I'm a uniform security guard company and all I do is retail, right? And then COVID comes and retail stores are closed because you're not allowed to be open, right? If that's my only source of revenue, now I'm kaput. And that we did experience that during COVID. No one was traveling in for executive protection work because you can't travel and retail's closed. And so nobody had any business. But so you need to try to generate maybe 2 or 3 revenue streams if you can within the same, right? So for me, we do uniform security. We also do executive protection, and then we do some training as well, first aid and active violence training. So we try to have multiple revenue sources that feed on each other or self-support each other, or if one is struggling or falling off, we still have some meat and potatoes coming in from the other. The advice that I'll tell you don't do is do not compromise your morals. Don't take contracts at the lowest possible price to get it, to build off of that. The business model is not going to work. You're not going to be able to pay quality people. You're going to have no call, no shows or turnover, employee turnover, and you're not going to be able to put a good presence in the field. You'll get fired or they'll go to a different vendor. You're just going to be chasing an unwin, which is hard, especially when there's low or no capital resources that you may start with. And the only thing I'll say there is there's a lot of community resources or some that are available. Small SBA, Small Business Administration. Anybody that's struggling with a little bit of funding or direction, hit your local SBA. Tremendous resources.
Beautiful.
Eliminate a lot of the fear of how can I expand a little bit or do something else and keep it going.
So diversify, have a broad base so that you're not too dependent. Another thing that I've always done, and what you're saying is great. That's so refreshing. Is I try to make it so that no particular client is worth more than 20% of revenue. That way I can fire them without fear. Even after I bring them on board, if I want to, if I can, I try not to let any one client be more than 20%, so that, because if they're 30-40%, you end up eating a whole lot of turd sandwiches that they're serving because you need it.
You might be $100 million company, but what happens if it's only one client and that client goes away? Then you're done. And, if you're growing a business and one of your end games, if it's not to maybe air it to family or something to take over, and maybe there's an end game for retirement and you want to sell, you need to be diversified, right? You can't have one contract, no VC or no investment company. Look at you with one customer. They want a big portfolio, right? They want 100 million or 10 million across many customers that are consistent that they build off of one and done. Not good. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, well, thank you for your time. This is very refreshing. I appreciate, you just being so open and being with me about this. If you had to pick any parting advice to give to security business owners that are listening or viewing this on YouTube or listening to this podcast, what would you like to leave them with?
find yourself a mentor, more than one if needed. Find someone that might be specific to the business or the area that you're in, if it's school or business, and then find another one that might be more of a life coach, to lean on for advice. So 1-on-1 or as many as you can gather.
Beautiful, beautiful. One thing I wanted to definitely make sure that I mention everyone and give you an opportunity to talk about is your podcast, Security and Cigars. Wonderful concept. Can you just take a couple minutes, tell everybody what it's about and how they can enjoy it?
Thank you. So we have our Security and Cigars podcast every Friday at 3 p.m. Pacific time. It's on a mobile app called Clubhouse. It's an audio chat room for members. Myself and my business partner, Antonio, are the hosts of the podcast. It's very interactive. We pick a security topic. We're about 70 weeks in, and we have not duplicated the same security topic. All of our podcasts are saved that you can listen to later, so you have access to all of our old topics and podcasts. We have a decent-sized group, and it's from all over the world. We have people from Australia, Europe, England, all over the place, including the States, and it's a great interactive way. It's good for, it's a blend of experienced security professionals and some folks that are new that can really benefit from the exchange. We pick a topic, and then we can go off topic with Q&A. So it's fun. It's a way to stay connected to the industry, but in a much more casual environment, hanging out for an hour on Friday. We have quite a few folks that even if they're on the job, operating dependent, can at least listen in on a Bluetooth, and enjoy.
Got it. So if I wanted to go, if someone wants to go, and they're definitely going to want to go and hear it, where would they go to see it? Would they go to Clubhouse?
Yeah, they would first have to download the Clubhouse app. They look for our room, Security-N-Cigars. They'll find us. We post links to the podcast on LinkedIn throughout the week, and I post every Friday morning to join us later today. It goes on our Facebook. It goes on our LinkedIn. All the links are there. Once you join, you can like the house, and then you'll always have access to the house, and you'll get pinged for the new podcast.
Excellent. So any of you guys out there on men or women out there on LinkedIn, just check out Evan Levitt. That's EvanLevitt. That's another way that you can see the link. Also, you should follow Evan. Evan posts some really good content. That's actually one of the ways, that's how we met. He posts some really good content out there, and you will not be disappointed. Thank you so much. Thanks again, Evan. You have a good one, okay?
Thanks, Rudo.
Tune in next time for more insights into running a successful security business. If you'd like to access to free information and resources to help your security business, be sure to visit our website, yoursecuritybusiness.com. This is Rudo Robinson, and I encourage you to go out there and do the right things in the right way to get the best results.